Courtney here today to talk to you about our 3 small businesses and how we run those businesses. And I want to give you some ideas for any small business. It doesn't matter what your small business is. These ideas pretty much go for selling a service or a product, and they're kind of universal. I have been an entrepreneur most of my adult life. I have worked for myself and as a 1099 contractor. So I wanted to tell you, and my husband and I own a business together too. So I used to say to my students when I was training teachers in my vocational school, it doesn't matter if you're selling yoga, you're selling shoes, there's still some principles that are straight across the board, they work and they matter. And the first one is you have to come up with your idea. So whatever your idea is, you definitely want to research that idea and make sure that it's a good and viable idea. How much is it going to cost to set it up? How much is your return on your investment? What does that thing sell for? Are people wanting to buy that service? And what would make you stand out against the crowd? I'm also a published author, and there was a time where I really put off writing my book because I was like, these books are out there, people know. But I realized that my voice was different. The way that I wanted to teach what it was I was trying to say was different. And every book that I would buy to teach, I owned a yoga school, a vocational school. I trained teachers for 10 years. Over that 10 years, I trained 250 teachers. I believe that's right, somewhere around there. And the books that I had to teach them were great, but there was always something that just wasn't quite a fit. And so I ended up writing my own book and publishing that, which is one part of my business. I get a little bit of royalties off of that. It's actually done really well, but don't write books to become a millionaire because it doesn't work like that unless you get really lucky. So you got to make sure and do your research, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into this. The next one is decide if you're going to be a sole proprietor, an LLC, or an S corporation. I am not a legal person. We have an S corp on our roofing business because it makes over $35,000 a year. And at that point, it makes sense because of the taxes. There's a tax benefit. We also have an LLC on that business. And this was done because my lawyer and my attorney my accountant told me to do this. So an LLC protects your assets if you are going to get sued. Now, if we didn't have anything, I would have probably stuck with sole proprietor. So sole proprietor, you don't need to do anything. It's just a tax filing status. But if you have a lot of assets, you own your home, you have a vehicle, you have savings, you might want to consider the LLC for more protection. And you can read more about what to do online, of course, but your Secretary of State can tell you that. You would also want to see if you needed a business license. If you are out of the county, you probably don't. If you are in the county, you probably do. If you have a contracting business of some sort where you go and work on people's houses or something like that, sometimes you also have to look at having bonds or permits. I guess this would be a good time to tell you about our businesses. We own an Airbnb on our property. We rent it out about 10 days a month. I only choose to do it part-time because 3 businesses. We own a roofing business. We have chosen to keep it what I would consider medium-sized. We do anywhere from 30 to 100 roofs a month, and that is really weather dependent. A year. We do an average, like this past 3 months, we've been really busy. So some years we will do 60 is kind of an average for us. And we have chosen not to hire salesmen or grow bigger because we are heading towards retirement and we're not in the growth stage. We're in the maintaining. If we have a little bit of growth, that's great. But we're just trying to maintain and keep the wheels on the bus moving on all these businesses because they are profitable. We do have them down to a science. They're doing good for us. And, you don't want to mess with something at this stage in the game. If we were early on, it would be different. So the next thing you want to consider is your insurance. So on the Airbnb, I have a property owner's plan, and Airbnb provides some insurance as well on that. So I have insurance on that. And then on me as a contractor, I no longer own the yoga school. The way I make money with the yoga school, I have to get a drink of tea, is I don't own the yoga school anymore. I am the business, me. I'm a 1099 contractor as a yoga therapist with a doctor. So I have general liability insurance to protect me if someone said, oh, that lady, hurt me in some way, which I'm very careful not to, but it gives me an extra sense of protection that someone can't come in and take away my assets because we own our home and we have savings and things like that. So you need to find out what kind of insurance you need, if you need any at all, if there's a chance someone could sue you. So in the roofing business, we have a lot of insurance. It's a huge line item in our budget. We have workman's comp, we have general liability. It's very, very expensive. We have bonds and permits and things like that we also have to have on most of these jobs. The next thing is you need to have a marketing plan. Let's go back to where I started. You've got to figure out, first of all, you've got to look at the things you sell. So when I first started my yoga school, there wasn't a lot of competition. There wasn't a lot of yoga being taught. I've been teaching for 21 years. And if you know anything about yoga, it hasn't been that popular for 21 years. It's only been really super popular in about the last 10 to 12 years. And so I would look at what similar businesses were charging: taekwondo, karate, dance schools, gymnastics. What were they charging per lesson, per the month? And that's how I figured out what to charge. On the cost for teacher training, I looked at other teacher trainings in similar markets to me. So I'm in Arkansas, and there was only one other school at the time when I opened my school that I knew about. There actually were two. I didn't know about one of them. And I looked at their pricing. I didn't want to be the cheapest, but I didn't want to be the most expensive either, because believe it or not, people value what they pay for. So you don't want to be like in our roofing business. Sometimes we'll have people who will really undercut our price, but they don't necessarily do quality work. We're not the most expensive and we're not the cheapest. We do a fair job. We do a fair price for a great job, great quality. Boy, I can get my words out today. And we make sure that people are taken care of. We go back if there's a problem. So our whole marketing plan is based around the quality of our work. So you need to know pricing, what's the return on your investment? When are you going to do this job? If you have another job, what is your structure for putting time in? So for instance, I have this YouTube channel, and right now I have 3 other businesses. I don't really plan on doing this for money. If it ever made money, that would be great. If I got to the point where I could monetize it, I probably would. But I kind of in my mind have a 5-hour commitment to YouTube per week, which I'm already doing. But for me, it's more of a hobby that has the potential of making money. Now, let me tell you that with all things that you do as a hobby, my husband used to own a dojo. I've owned a yoga studio, yoga school. I taught yoga workshops. Obviously, I used to love yoga. And my husband loved karate. My husband was a professional. He competed professionally for money, had sponsors and all of that for many years. So when you take your hobby or your passion and you turn it into a business, it can change the way you feel about it. And so you do need to be prepared for that as well, because like I have a friend who's an artist and she's not sold her art yet. And I have a bunch of art contacts, and I got her in contact with some gallery owners the other day. And then there's that, oh my gosh, do I really want to part with this? So really think about what that's going to look like if you turn your love or passion for something into a business. So do your research. The next thing is, I cannot stress this enough, go organic. Start small, because it's like being a child. When you're a little kid and you make a mistake, it's not that big a deal. But as you grow, mistakes become more costly, literally more costly emotionally. So start small. I didn't start out with 2 yoga schools teaching workshops. I started out teaching workshops for 3 or 4 hours at a time, and made sure that I could teach a curriculum for that long. And then by the time I had opened my first yoga school, I had been teaching workshops for a couple of years and saw how I could make money on that, how I could write curriculum. And so my husband was just doing side work, like doing roofs on the side, doing fences, doing decks for extra money. and we decided to grow that into a full-fledged roofing business, which we did over time, but we started small. If you're good at what you do, you don't overstress yourself, that it's like a snowball. It'll start to pick up momentum over time as people get to know you, as you make contacts. But I would highly recommend you start small. Don't go all in and invest a lot of money. Just start out really small. And with our Airbnb, I sold a house in town. I made a $30,000 profit. The budget was 30. It went over about 12,000. But we did not go and borrow money to do that. We started out really, really small. So you want to make sure that you're reducing your risk, especially if you can't afford to lose a lot. If you have a home, or you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you'll be destitute if it doesn't work out. So the next thing is to make sure that you open a checking account separate for your business. And you're going to put all of the money in your checking account, and you don't want to mix your personal spending and your work spending. I cannot stress that enough either. It's one of the biggest mistakes people make. It's very hard to do your bookkeeping like that, and it's also extremely sends a red flag to the IRS. So anything related to your business, I would recommend you get a debit card or a credit card that you only use for that. Make sure, if you're responsible with credit, you want to make sure you can pay it off monthly. So let's say you have $500 sitting in your business checking account and you need to buy $100 worth of supplies. You're going to use that credit card only for that. And every month when you get your check statement, and I would say get a paper statement or print one out, you want to put your credit card statement with it and make sure that you write down make sure it's all business expenses. You might even specify, like I had a Home Depot and I put this is for a fire pit for the Airbnb. So don't mix your money. The next thing is, so you might be thinking, well, how do I get money from that business? So what I do is I have, with the businesses, each business has what I would call capital expenditures. And I don't know if that's the right term or not, but or an emergency fund. Roofing business is quite large because the problems that come with a very risky business like that can be big. So I keep a certain amount of money in the roofing business that never touches it. We never touch it unless there's an emergency. And if there is an emergency, or if something comes up unexpected, because those expenses are quite large, then we always build it back up before we take more out of it. We've had the roofing business long enough that I know how much we can take out. So I have a paycheck deposited into our account because we're an S Corp and we have to have a paycheck. But I do this even with my non-S Corp businesses. And again, that's just a tax. That's just a way of handling it with the IRS. But pay yourself a paycheck. Now with the Airbnb, I'm saving in the Airbnb account to add a washer and dryer and build on a little room for outdoor washer and dryer and a storage. So I'm just letting that build up. But I know that I could reasonably take $500 a month out of that business without going negative, and keep plenty of money in there to keep an emergency fund, pay for all the expenses, and a little extra. I could actually probably take $700, but I choose not to. On the yoga business, because I'm a 1099 contractor, all of my automobile expenses come out of there. You can't deduct your automobile expenses and the mileage, but I still take them out of there. It just kind of is my pay. My cell phone, my office equipment, anything that has to do, I have to wear special clothes to work in a medical office. All of those come out of there. And then any certifications, licensure, insurance, everything comes out of there. It does not mix with my personal. Now, I can take a little bit of money out of there for my pay every month, but instead of doing that right now, we don't need my income at this point. So that money is being saved to go into my retirement account and a savings account so that I can retire early. So what I'm trying to say to you is, over a period of time, you'll get an idea. Like if you look back over a year, past performance is indicative of future performance. So if you look back over a year and you're like, okay, I made $12,000 and my expenses were $6,000, and I need to keep $2,000 in this account so I can take $4,000. I hope my math was just right, out on this business. And so whatever $4,000 is divided by 12, probably 300 and something, you can take that amount out as your income every year. So that is how you would do that. And you want to be very careful with this. So then after you get a couple of years behind your belt, like I know with the roofing business, there's a low number and there's a high number. And every year it kind of stays around the same. Sometimes it jumps up pretty high. Sometimes it goes down a little bit low, but there's a mean, if you will. Is it the mean or the median? I can't remember. The middle number. I added all up all 4 years. We've been in business a lot longer than that. But my husband and I got married 4 years ago. So we have 4 years of tax returns. So that's why I'm using that. So look at those 4 years and I say, okay, I add all 4 up. I divide by 4 and I come up with the average. And I plan our budget around that average, knowing that I have extra money put back if I'm off a little bit. Last year, 2020, we were busiest that we've ever been. I mean, we made double our normal income. 2021, slowest year we've had. So, you just never know. But even at that, the salary that I take out every month was never affected because I didn't take too much out. So that is the best advice I could give you. Just know that a business has to be handled as a business. And I'm a big believer that the more professional you are and the more you do things the right way, the more successful you'll be because you'll be confident in what you're doing. And it just takes time. We've made a lot of mistakes. We've learned a lot through our mistakes. You can't call your competition and say, oh, hey, can you teach me this? Some of the things we've had to learn, we didn't know what we didn't know until something bad happened. With the roofing business, there's a lot of liabilities and problems. It's not so much that way with the yoga business because I go to work at my job. I'm a contractor. I get paid to be there to teach classes. And then and then I'm done. All right, well, my son is calling me, so I'm going to say goodbye on this video. Thank you very much. If you like this, please subscribe and like. Thank you. Bye-bye.